Okay, this is called Simon's House of Lipstick. Hayden was in trouble again. Big surprise, huh? So what else was new, right? That man wouldn't have known he had a pulse unless the IRA was closing in, his ex-wife was circling his field with a squadron of divorce lawyers, or a rabid dog had just bitten him on the dick. When he opened his eyes that morning, this is what immediately filled his mind. He had no money to pay the bills on his desk. His car was dying of 3 different kinds of automotive cancer, and he had to lead a city tour today, and if he didn't do it well this time, he would be fired. Earlier in his life, it was okay when Hayden lost a job because there was always another around somewhere. But now, like the last pair of socks in the drawer, there were no more left. He had to wear this one with the big hole in the toe or else go barefoot, and barefoot meant even more trouble. Sighing, he threw off the thin purple blanket that he'd bought at a Chinese discount store after his wife left him and took everything, including the blankets. But she was right to leave because he was a dog in every way except loyalty. No, that's not correct. To call Hayden a dog was to insult canines. Call him a rat. Call him a weasel. Call him a disease with a head. Simon Hayden was not a nice man, despite the fact he was a very handsome one. His face had been the downfall of not only innumerable trusting women, but one-time friends, used car dealers who gave him a better deal than they should have, and former bosses who were proud for a while to have such a handsome guy working for them. Why do we always fall for good looks? Why are we never immune to them? Is it optimism or stupidity? Maybe it's just hope. You see someone pretty and the sight convinces you that if they can exist, then things are right in the world. Hayden used to say, women don't want to fuck me, they want to fuck my face, and he was right. But that was history. Now few women wanted to fuck any part of him. Oh sure, sometimes one down at the end of a bar who'd had too much to drink and begun to see double, saw 2 Haydens and thought they looked like a movie star whose name she couldn't remember at the moment. But that was rare. Now he usually drank alone and went home alone. He was a shallow, self-absorbed middle-aged man with a fading face and an empty bank account who gave guided tours of a city that was no longer his friend. And why as tour guide? Because it was mindless work once you got the hang of it. And the tourists he led were so interested in what he said. He'd never got over how grateful these people were. They made him feel like he was giving them his city rather than just pointing out its sights. Once in a while, a good-looking woman would be a part of a tour group. They were like an extra tip dropped in Hayden's hands. What a wonderful guide he was on those days. Witty and informative, he knew everything they wanted to know. And what he didn't know, he made up. That was simple because he had been doing that sort of thing his whole life. His audience never knew the difference. Besides, his lives were so imaginative and interesting. Years later, while looking at snapshots of their trip, people would say, "Do you see the dog in that portrait? It lived to be 28 years old and was so loved by the Duke that its gravestone is as big as his." A lie, of course, but an interesting one. Maybe there'd be a pretty woman today. Gripping the sink with both hands, Hayden stared into the bathroom mirror and said a little prayer. Let there be a beautiful female face today in that crowd of blue hairs, hearing aids, and TV-size eyeglasses. In his mind, he saw them all. Saw their cream-colored, crepe-soled shoes the size of small hydrofoils, the perma-pressed leisure suits 1,000 years out of fashion. He heard their loud voices full of whines and stupid questions, like, where's the castle? Where's the toilet? Where's the restaurant? Where's the bus? Was one beautiful face asking so much? A daughter along for the ride? A nubile granddaughter? Someone's nurse? Anything to spare him a day surrounded by the House of Lipstick. He said those words slowly into the mirror as if he were an actor learning his lines. Today he was guiding a group of people from the House of Lipstick. What was that? A store that sold only lipstick or a business that manufactured it? He'd know more when he opened the envelope given to him at work detailing the job. He smiled, imagining 20 old people with lipstick-smeared lips, all of them very attentive to what he was saying. Glistening red lips, the color of a clown's nose or a dog's rubber ball. Sighing, he picked up his toothbrush and began to prepare for the day. Because Simon Hayden was a very vain man, his small closet was bursting with the best clothes. Avoncelli cashmere sweaters, 1, 2, 3, 4 Richard James suits, $150 belts. He had never been to Europe, but he dressed like a wealthy European. He certainly had taste and style, but neither had helped him much over the years. Yes, they had enabled him to fool some of the people some of the time, but sooner or later, everyone, including the dumbbells, figured Hayden out, and then invariably he was out. Out of a job, out of a marriage, out of chances. What's most interesting about people like him, even more than their pretty faces, is that they almost never understand why the world eventually ends up hating them. Hayden had done terrible things to people, but for the life of him, he could not understand why he had ended up where he was now, living alone in a lousy, cramped apartment, working a no-exit job, and spending far too much free time at the TV watching whatever was in front of his eyeballs. He knew which wrestlers were feuding with whom in professional wrestling. He had given serious thought to buying those Japanese steak knives on the shopping channel. He carefully taped his favorite daytime soap operas if he had to miss an episode. Oh my God, how did I end up like this? If someone had told Simon Hayden that he was a colossal prick, and why, he would not have understood. He would not have denied it. He would not have understood. Because pretty people think the world should forgive whatever their sins are simply because they exist. He finished in the bathroom and went into the bedroom. The envelope containing the day's instructions lay on the dresser. In his underpants and sheer black socks, he picked it up and tore it open. A tiny man the size of a candy bar stepped out of the envelope into his hand. Hayden, how you doing? Broxamon, long time no see, buddy. How are you? Broxamon, a man in a beautiful blue pinstripe suit, brushed off both arms as if being inside that envelope had dirtied them. Hey, I can't complain. How you doing, buddy? Hayden carefully put him down on the table and then pulled up a chair. Well, wait a minute. Hayden, put on some clothes before we chat. I don't want to be talking to a dude in his underpants. Hayden smiled and went off to choose an outfit for the day. While waiting for him, Broxamon took out a tiny portable CD player and turned on Luther Vandross. With the music cooking in his ears, Broxamon walked to the edge of the table and sat down with his legs dangling over the side. Now, Hayden sure lived low. The man's apartment showed no signs of life, no texture, no soul. Nothing was in it that made you go, whoa, that's cool. Broxamon was a firm believer in to each his own, but when you're in a man's home, you can't help looking around, right? And if you see that apartment ain't got nothing inside it but the heat, well, that's just the truth of the situation. You're not making any sort of value judgment. You're just reporting what you see, which in this case wasn't much. That was for damn sure. So, Brox, who am I showing around today? The house of lipstick, huh? Hayden came in wearing a formal white shirt and a sharp pair of black slacks that looked like they had cost serious money. Yep. Broxamon reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. A group of 12. And the part you'll like, Simon, is that they're almost all women, all under the age of 30. Hayden's face lit up. His prayer had been answered. He couldn't believe his luck. Terrific! What's the story with them? Well, did you ever hear of that shopping mall, Malvolous, in Secaucus, New Jersey? No. Hayden looked to see if Broxamon was joking with that stupid name. Well, it was the biggest shopping mall in the tri-state area. Then someone started a fire in it, and it became the biggest shopping mall fire ever in the tri-state area. Hayden checked his pockets to make sure he had everything, keys, wallet. Then he asked, without much interest, how many died in the fire? 21. Over half of them in the house of lipstick. The fire started right next to their shop, and they didn't have much chance of escaping. So what was it, some kind of cosmetic store? Yeah. The guy who owned it, you'll meet him today, had himself a good little business because that's all he sold. Just about every brand of lipstick on the earth. You know how everybody's crazy for specialty shops these days. He had brands from the weirdest places, like Paraguay. You never think of women wearing lipstick in Paraguay, Hayden stopped walking around the room and stared at Broxamon. Why not? The little man was instantly embarrassed. I don't know because it's fucking Paraguay. So what? For want of anything better to do, Broxamon stood and brushed off both sleeves again. Hey, come on, are we going to go or not? Hayden stared at him a moment longer, his expression saying that Broxamon was an idiot. The message was conveyed loud and clear. Finally, he nodded. Well, good, let's go, huh? He picked up Broxamon, placed him on his right shoulder, and left the apartment. He always met the tour bus outside the cafe where he ate his